Guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Maritzah if you did not know who I was, and if you're new here, hi, hello. Today we're going to be talking about setting powder. So this year, two setting powders that I feel like were the most talked about were released this year. One happened in the beginning of the year and the other one happened maybe about a few months ago, 2 months ago, and that is the Pat McGrath under eye setting powder and the Laura Mercier translucent in the shade Honey. I feel like these two were talked about a lot simply because one, the Pat McGrath one is really affordable. It's $30. Now in your head you're thinking like a $30 powder, that's expensive, but it's not, considering it's Pat McGrath and her palettes usually retail for like $120 or something like that. They're like in the hundreds, and I do believe the foundation is like $68. So for this to be $30, oh sis, this is affordable. And then the Laura Mercier, I feel like this is really talked about because this powder is a long time coming, and this was needed about 2 years ago, but they finally gave us a translucent powder. Well, I guess it's translucent. It says it, yeah, translucent powder. They gave us a powder that worked for someone who was like my complexion and maybe a little bit lighter and maybe a little bit darker. So if you're not familiar with Laura Mercier, what happened was Laura Mercier came out with just the regular translucent powder and their secret brightening under eye powder. And every influencer and their mom, they had those powders. And then deeper complexions were like, okay, hi, hello, I want to use this powder because when I do use it, I can only use so much because then I get flashback or just I look ashy. We need a deeper powder. So Laura listened and they gave us a deeper powder, but then people were like, okay, hi, hello, this is too dark. Can we get an in-between shade? And this is the in-between shade. So I feel like these two powders are the most talked about, and I have played around with both of them enough to form an opinion. So today I'm going to compare the two with you guys and give my thoughts on them, and maybe if you guys are interested in a good setting powder or you want to switch up your setting powders, you'll have two in mind. So let's just get into it.
If I gotta choose me, I won't be afraid to. If I gotta choose me, I gotta do what I gotta do.
So to be fair, I'm going to be using my NYX Born to Glow concealer in the shade Golden Honey. I usually use the Pat McGrath concealer, but I feel like obviously if I use the Pat McGrath concealer with the Pat McGrath powder, it's going to kind of be like, alright, well duh, it's going to work well because they're from the same company and they're supposed to work together. And I didn't want to cheat out Laura because I don't have the Laura Mercier concealer. I'm pretty sure there is one. I was never interested in getting it, so it's just kind of like, I'll just neutralize everything with using a different concealer from a different brand. So I'm going to go ahead and conceal underneath my eyes. Alright, so we are now just going to jump right into setting my face. On the left side, I'm going to be using the Pat McGrath, and on the right side, I'm going to be using Laura Mercier. I will use the same brush. I'm just going to wipe it off really, really well. I rather use a brush than a sponge. I don't like a sponge underneath my eyes. So before we get any creasing, because this concealer will crease on me a little bit, just a little bit, I want to go ahead and just set. So the Pat McGrath powder, it retails for $30. I really like it. I love that it's super cute and small. The only thing about this is it's fragile AF. I had to get a second one. This is my second one. If you watch one of my previous videos, I talked about how I had to get a second powder because I dropped the first one and it completely like shattered, and I tried to revive it using that technique of like alcohol and stuff like that, and either I did it wrong or it's one of those powders you just can't save. And I was just so mad because I spent $30 on a powder and it broke on me. So if you are clumsy and you are getting this powder, be very, very careful. I keep this in a bowl just so that it doesn't break and I won't, like, it's not in my way for when I'm moving things around and it gets easily broken. Okay. So right off the bat, you can see that this is very blurring. It does exactly what it says it's gonna do. It says in its name, relax, calm down, nobody's going anywhere. Blurring under eye powder, and it is blurring. Like you see this left side, you see it. Now we're gonna do the Laura, and I'll talk to you about the Laura. So with the Laura setting powder, I've used this, and I will say both powders photograph beautifully. I will give it that. They look so pretty when you take pictures, whether you're using your iPhone or you're using a digital camera. The quality, like the way that it makes your face look and the way that it photographs is so beautiful. I would give that to both of them. This retails for $39, by the way. This is $39, so the Pat McGrath is a little bit cheaper. I'm pretty sure Pat McGrath is $30 because I looked it up yesterday. But let me just double check. Yeah, the pressed powder is $30. She does have a loose powder. I didn't want to try that because I already had the Fenty setting powder. So the pressed powder is $30. This one is $39. So when you think about the loose powder of Pat McGrath and Laura Mercier, they're in the same price range. I just prefer the pressed one. So with the Laura one, I learned that you don't need a lot. And this is literally all that I have in my cap, and that's perfect. Okay, so even just doing that, and honestly that's more than enough. I'm not going in with more. They both do the same thing, that where underneath my eyes it looks really smooth, and I really like that about both of them. Setting powder is a little bit brightening. I do like that. Like the more you put on, the more brightening your under eye gets, which is really nice if you're looking for an if you're looking for your under eyes to be brightened. It does brighten it. I probably will have to go in with some Laura on this side because you can tell that this side of my face isn't as bright as this side. Alright, my final thoughts on these two powders. I love them both. Honestly, I love them both for different reasons. I already talked about the negatives, but those are just kind of personal things. They're not based off of like the brand itself and the formulation, minus the little bit of the dryness with the Laura Mercier, but that's just because I'm used to a more lightweight powder than Laura Mercier. But that's just Laura's formula, and that's been Laura's formula, so it's like that's not even her, that's me. So honestly, I love both of them. If you are a person, again, who does like mattifying powders, this is for you. You will really like this. I do feel like it is still smooth underneath your eyes. It's not like, you know, you go like this and you're like, whoa, my under eyes are dry. This is definitely like, okay, like, you know, it's mattifying, but it's not drying and it's not uncomfortable. It's the best way I can put it. Like, if you ever tried Sacha Buttercup powder, it's not like that. It's not that mattifying where you're uncomfortable and your face feels like the Sahara Desert. It's not like that. This is just a very, it's not a comfortable matte, but it's not a drying matte. It's like somewhere in between where it's like, it's not too much, but it's not too light. That's what this is giving. And it also gives you brightness, so if you are looking for a good brightening under eye powder, I feel like this is really good. I feel like it brightens it enough and does what it needs to do. And even if I go up a shade in my concealer, it still even brightens that. So I do feel like this is a really good powder, and it's a really good shade if you are my complexion, or maybe a little bit lighter, a little bit darker. This is for you, rather than the deeper complexion powder and then the lighter one. This is the perfect fit. And even if you do like 2 shades above your regular concealer shade to brighten up your under eye, I feel like this is good for you. And then with the Pat McGrath, I feel like if you're used to like Fenty and Maybelline Fit Me, that kind of lightweight, but it still sets your under eye and then it smooths it a little bit, this is for you. I really like this. I love it paired with the concealer. If you're able to get the concealer and the powder, get the concealer and the powder, because together they are magic. Like, I promise you, anytime, like I think I said it earlier in the video, anytime I put this on, I feel like a supermodel. I promise you. I don't know. Like, it's just amazing. Okay, the formula together, it's amazing. But again, if you are looking for something that's a little bit more lightweight, a demi matte, you know, gives you like a little bit of a satin finish, your under eyes don't look dry, and even if you use a lot of powder, you still won't get that dryness, this is for you. Again, it's just really fragile, so be careful if you're clumsy like me. Be super careful, but I really love this powder. And I love the Laura one too. It's just, I have to use a little bit. So if you are that kind of person where you're transitioning from something a little bit lightweight like Pat McGrath or Fenty, get the travel so you can play around with it and, you know, use a little bit, because I don't need this much, because I'm only going to use a little bit considering the formulation of it. So that is pretty much my final thoughts on both of these powders. I think they are worth the hype and the talk about with these. I do feel like they both can extend their shade range though. Like, I know there's people who really love the Laura Mercier setting powder, like die hard love it, and there's die hard fans. I also feel like there's people who want to try it and are scared, and they feel like, okay, it's too light. And even the deeper shade, they may feel like it's too light. So with Laura, you can just keep extending your shade range, and Pat McGrath, same thing. I feel like this is deep. Like, it doesn't, this is what deep looks like. I feel like we can get about 4 or 5 more shades, and then with Laura we can get maybe 4 or 5 more shades from you, maybe 3 or 4. Honestly, it could go either way. Just expanding your shade ranges and powders is important, because inclusivity is not just with foundation and concealer, it's with all products. And I'm not saying that people can't use them, I just want more people to be able to use them, because some people may look at both of these powders and say, okay, it's too light, I need something a little bit darker. And considering that this is the deepest one, it's like, okay, you know, we need a little bit more of a darker shade range, you know, keep pushing it that way. I feel like we definitely should be able to do that. So those are my final thoughts on those 2 powders. I really love them. I want more people to be able to try their products and like them. So let's just extend the shade range. That's it. That's all I'm asking. Just a little bit of an extension, or a lot of bit of extension. An extension we need. So that is it for this powder video. I hope you guys learned something. You were able to take away something from this video, because that is the point of all of my videos. I hope this video finds you well. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next one, and I'll see you later.